Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ski Talk Live right here at skitalk.com. Of course, I'm Dan Egan. It's Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. And let me tell you, September is the busiest month in the ski industry. It always flies by. It's a blink of an eye from Labor Day to the end of September. And I'm just floored. Of course, there's so much happening in the world of skiing and lots to talk about. Of course, we start tonight with some sad news at the loss of famed mountaineer and alpinist Hilaree Nelson in Nepal. The details are still a bit confusing, and we may never know the exact chain of events that claimed the life of one of the most pioneering women in our sport. Hilaree, of course, a mother of two, was 49 years old, a Telluride, Colorado resident, and she'll be greatly missed. I'm not going to report on her accident tonight, as there's many reports on the internet with far more information than I have. Only to say that our thoughts are with the community of Telluride, her children, of course, and family and friends around the world. I'd like to take a moment just to bow our heads in silence in memory of Hilaree. Of course, many of us are touched by these tragedies, and they happen all too often when we lose friends in the mountains. And it's a reminder of just how precious life is and how we need to celebrate the ones we love when they're around us and when they're with us. And of course, this time of year, local and regional ski museums often have their new classes into the Hall of Fame. And recently, the Vermont Ski Museum had its 2022 class inducted into the Vermont Ski Hall of Fame, and that included two-time Olympic ski jumper Jim Holland, of course, Rip, the skier who was the double in the Robert Redford famed film in 1969, Downhill Racer, and of course the Betsy Pratt, who is the godmother of Mad River Glen, Ski It If You Can, and has taken great care of that ski area. And as well as Ralph Delorier, the founder of Bolton Valley Resort. And of course, Rob and Eric skied in all the movies with us. And Rob's wife, Kit, was recently inducted in the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame. And she would, I imagine, tonight be very sad over the loss of Hilaree. And of course, over in Colorado at the Colorado Ski Hall of Fame recently, they put in Chet Upham, the owner of Loveland Ski Area, John Dakin, the famed PR man who was the chief of press for 3 world championships there in Vail, Peter Ritz, one of the authors of the Skier's Responsibility Code, snowboarder and X Game gold medalist and Olympic silver medalist Gretchen Byler, and of course, our dear friend, Jeannie Thorne, who's a pioneering woman in the sport and really paved the way for much of the women's ski technique and product that you see today. And of course, Ron LeMaster, who will be missed, one of my dear friends. He paved the way in observing ski technique. He was a master coach and teacher, and nice to see Ron honored like that. You know, coming right out of the box tonight, in September, of course, there's snow in the mountains. Big Sky received his first dusting up there on Lone Peak. Excited to see that. And of course, reports are coming in from around the Rockies that flakes have been falling. With that and all the weather events, I just sat out a major hurricane in Bermuda, and with the storm crashing into Florida tonight, our thoughts are with everybody in Florida as well. You know, we have a really big show and a big season coming for you here at Ski Talk. We've got 10 shows lined up. We're excited about it tonight. Of course, we're going to we have a couple of special guests, Jared Drake and Stephen Siig, the producers of the new film Buried, about the 1982 avalanche in Alpine Meadows. We're going to tell you a lot about that film, meet Jared and Stephen in a little bit. But let's kick it off, as always, with our co-founders of Ski Talk, Phil and Tricia. You got me going tonight. What's going on, Phil? How we doing, Tricia?
We're doing great. Phil and I have had a long journey. We did a charity golf outing with Justin, the executive director of the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame in Park City a week ago. And then we followed him across the country, and we've been helping him do some things and curate a few things in the museum past few days. And here we are sitting in the hallowed halls of the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame in Ishpeming, Michigan.
Yep, along that trip, we did stop off in Bozeman and Big Sky and spent some time with Bodie Miller and Chris Davenport. Played some golf with Bodie. We just had a great time there. We fortunately missed the snow that part of the trip, which would have put a damper on the golf. But otherwise, yeah, we're on the roundabout tour right now, this early in the year, and we're just excited to be able to talk skiing in open environments.
You're on a pretty massive road trip if you left from Reno and you're in Ishpeming, Michigan, just a short 7-hour drive north of Detroit. How's the museum? What's happening?
We're doing a lot of cleaning and recurating, and I spent the day today just doing some visual merchandising stuff in the gift shop. They got amazing things in the gift shop. If somebody's looking for a ski gift for somebody, they got some unique, really beautiful items in the gift shop. Call the hall and they'll ship it to you.
And we just saw actually Jeannie Thorne along the way. We stopped up in Duluth, spent some time with Jeannie and Tom, and just Tricia's actually helping curate some of her historic items that we'll have a special section on SkiTalk.com with all of this information of her technologies through the years working with Blizzard and Dynastar.
Of course, lots going on here. Of course, we come into the fall. Tell us what's happening on the website at SkiTalk and what's some of the chatter all about.
Well, a lot of the chatter this year is we've took the initiative to reinvent and relaunch our YouTube channel. So we've spent a lot of time this summer in front and behind the camera getting stuff ready. I think we have probably about 50 new videos up of ski gear, some ski tips that we're just having fun with. And then we have a lot of new product videos coming up over the next couple of months. So definitely stay tuned and check out the rest of our our YouTube channel for SkiTalk.com. But the emphasis that we've been working on as far as chatter is ski reviews, and getting information out there for people and talking about gears. And not everybody likes to read about skis, but some people like just to watch videos.
You know, it seems to me video on YouTube's quite a trend right now. So you're really hitting right on it. Of course, Trish, I see that you're also hosting some of these videos. Tell us about the video we're going to see tonight on pole straps.
Oh, well, I was kind of dumb, and I think you were one of my coaches I had at one point in time that said that my dumb hands were fouling up my smart feet because I had no pole plant. And I learned how to use the ski straps, and I realized that if I use the ski straps, I had a more effective pole plant. And so I did a quick little video on how to use your pole plant.
Maybe we can check that out. Let's see that. I think we have that teed up.
Hi, this is Tricia from SkiTalk.com. I'm here today with a pole tip in our tech tips. Sometimes people question what to do with their pole straps. They don't even use them because they're not quite sure, or they put their hand through the grip and it's easy for them to hurt their wrist if they slide down the pole a little bit, or in an accident, it easily comes off, which could be a danger to others on the slopes. So I'm going to show you today the effective way that we taught kids in ski school. The bunny goes up through the hole and he grabs the carrot. This gives you a more secure position on the pole, and it also allows you to do a nice, efficient pole touch or pole plant. I hope that you enjoyed this tech tip today, and remember, skiing is fun.
Very good, Trish. Well done. And you guys, this is your new tagline here, skiing is fun. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
It was organic.
Yeah.
It was initially put into one of the intros of our video by our editor, and then we kind of caught on to it because we accidentally said it one time, or it just naturally came to us to say skiing is fun, and it picked up and people liked it, and we said we like it too because that's what it should be all about. It shouldn't be about overthinking. It should be about clicking into the bindings and going to have fun.
It's not only fun, it's a little addicting. I think it's pretty much ruled my life for a good 40 plus years. Of course, we're so excited tonight, and we're honored to be featuring the new film Buried, which is going to be out in theaters nationally all across America, and then on a streaming platform, I believe Apple TV. We're going to learn more about it. Of course, we have the producers coming on right now with us, Jared Drake and Stephen Siig. But before we introduce them, let's see the intro and the trailer to the movie Buried.
Hubris is a state of overconfidence. Discussions of hubris always played into our training. We were maybe overconfident in our ability to control things. Alpine Meadows was one of the most hazardous avalanche areas in the country.
Then you tie in the terrain. It's steep right from the top right to the base. On top of that, we're in a climate that has greatly fluctuating temperatures. It was just this wonderful little avalanche machine.
I will never forget the morning of the 31st, waking up and seeing the snow. It was snowing sideways. The wind sounded like a jet engine.
When we found out the mountain was closed that morning, we headed back into the house.
It wasn't like there was any premonition there. It was just, yeah, stay here, be warm.
I called and Bernie answered the phone. Then he said, hold on.
And then
this footage has just come in from the Lake Tahoe area.
The Summit building was totally destroyed.
Child was what the people.
The death toll of the avalanche now stands.
If there was any hope to find any survivors, the time was really of the essence.
2 bodies were recovered, but there were still 3 out there somewhere, and the grim work went on.
I spent most of the day searching outside the building. Bridget wasn't fooling around. She was on full alert.
Helicopters are standing by to work on avalanche control.
Get yourself ready for this, because no one's walking away from it.
My heart sank. Did we miss something?
Is there any hope at all for the missing people to be alive at this point?
A miracle. It would be a miracle.
Let's welcome to Ski Talk, Jared Drake and Stephen Siig.
Hi, Dan.
How we doing, boys? How's everything?
Doing good. Yeah.
It's a difficult day for all of us, I know. And this film, of course, brings that all to light in so many different ways. I recall the 82 Avalanche. It was before my time in Tahoe. But was this a story that had kind of drifted away, or has it always sort of lingered in the sort of alpine community? What do you think, Steve?
Well, it didn't drift away. It's been, it's always talked about in our community. Everyone knows the story to a certain degree, but there wasn't really a definitive film project about it. And for many years, I think people didn't want to talk about it, outwardly. I think a lot of people were just reflecting within themselves. But everyone felt that the story needed to be out there. And both Jared and I latched onto that early on because we wanted to tell stories about our backyard, from our backyard. And this is the biggest story of Alpine Meadows, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was never swept under the rug, so to say.
Yeah, I would say, it's definitely out there. I moved to Alpine 8 years ago, and pretty much right upon moving here, heard about this event, and people talk about it. You're down at the coffee shop, you meet the people in it. And, my wife and I moved to Alpine kind of thinking we're moving to idyllic, mountainside. This is it. This is where the film takes place for the most part. And very quickly realized it's different out here than where we grew up. And, we need to embrace what this place is and learn about it, and try and learn from those who have been here and those who experienced 82 and beyond. And that really became kind of like my personal stake in the project. And I think, we're 40 years after the fact, and before it's too late, it was really important to our community and especially those in the film that wanted to speak up, that the story gets told. And so, Siig and I kind of, there was sort of a tipping point where it was like, we kind of have to tell this story, you know, before it's too late for our community, just to capture the history of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's these sort of stories, the community becomes the story in a way, and it's always about community. And I think we mentioned at the beginning of the show, of course, the Telluride community is reeling from Hilaree, and I know that she was involved a little bit here with the Telluride Mountain Film Festival, Jared. And you want to just touch on that for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about Hilaree is like her community's huge, yeah, Telluride especially, but I mean, she affected our community, she infected mountain culture everywhere. And it's hard to believe that we're sitting here talking about her in this way. We premiered the movie at Mountain Film last year. She was the guest director, definitely had an influence on us being there. We won the audience award in that festival, which led to Evan Hayes coming on board, who produced Free Solo. And, really Evan and Michael Sugar and David Hillman and MJ and that whole crew that came on because of Mountain Film are responsible for where the movie's at now. And, I think, thinking about Hilaree today, trying to just put it into some sort of context is really tough. I mean, I know my mind immediately goes to her kids and Jim, and the beauty is that there is a community there that, is loving and ready to support. And I don't know what to do in that.
Yeah. This is her community as well. Tahoe, had become her community as well. And it was odd because Jim and I have been friends for 30 plus years. And it was so awesome when he and Hilaree got together, because he had been through some turmoil ahead of that relationship that Hilaree really helped heal and fill something in his life. And then they became this amazing team. And in that, she was visiting here, but we had never met until we went to Telluride. And it was awesome because she just fully engaged with the film and what the film was all about. And even had, Jared, remind me, she actually had a couple moments with Jim, who is our protagonist in the film. And, they had some great talks. I think they even did a panel discussion outside of the panel discussion that we did. Yeah. And that was really refreshing, because that's the type of professional that she was. These are the people that, push not only the limits, but they're out there living life to the fullest degree. And, the mountains are a tough place. And sometimes you find yourself in a spot, and if the mountain wants to take you, the mountain is going to take you. And it takes community to help heal. And Tahoe has always been a core healing place. And Buried, I think, has been a very cathartic project for a lot of people. And I think they're going to use this, even with what's happened with Hilaree. And it's tough because, even our film, I feel like, is a really good introduction to avalanche awareness and inherent risks of living in the mountains, etc. And then you have these other shows, and people are really gravitating to Jimmy Chin, and he has a great show, Edge of the Unknown. And they talk about avalanches and that quite a bit. And he was, in avalanches. So you see a lot of discussion around avalanches. And that was a core theme of what we wanted to do with Buried, is really introduce the masses to how important it is to be aware of the mountains and what they can do. And Hilaree's going to help us with that as well, and her name is going to carry on for a long, long time.
I know both of you live up there in the Alpine community, and you're sitting basically somewhat in the avalanche path. I've witnessed those Tahoe storms, and one thing that comes across in the movie is the description of the storm, the sound of the snow. Just fascinating, the tingling of the snow that day and how that's referenced. I was wondering if, Jared, you could just tell us about, what that storm was, how much snow fell, how long did it fall for, and what set up the situation?
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing was it was kind of everyone was sort of headed into spring before the storm cycle came in. And, you know, they say in the film they felt it was smooth sailing to summer. And then the storm cycle kicks up. And I think, Sigo, correct me if I'm wrong, but 180 inches over 7 days. Is that right?
Yep. There's a little bit more than that, but it was crushing. It ended up being about 13 feet, but yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it was unprecedented at the time. I mean, the crazy thing is we've seen storm cycles like that. We had a massive one last December that was comparable, not exactly like it, but comparable. And, you know, I think the question is that we face that we get a lot is, you know, what have we learned since 82? What's different about those storms as they come in now? And what do we know that's different? And how can we better mitigate it?
And Sig, you know, the snow's sitting up there. There's patrollers up on top, which I don't think a lot of people realize that ski patrol. Some of these guys are sleeping up on the mountain during the storm to throw the charges early in the morning. The ski resort is closed; they don't open it that day, but it was just too much to keep up. And Jim, you know, the main character there, you know, who's in charge of the avalanche, you know, forecasting. You know, tell me about him as a character and how did he come to you to be in the film?
Well, Jim and I have known each other for a long, long time. We have a private property between what used to be Squaw Valley, USA, and Alpine Meadows, and that's called White Wolf. And I was helping Troy Caldwell, who owns that property, not only guide, but he's building lifts there. And so we had to get specific AVI certifications specific to that zone for his permits. And that's where Jim and I met. And believe it or not, that was 18 years ago. And he knew who I was. He knew my background with Warren Miller, and he knew I was a filmmaker. And he was like, "You're the guy, man. You got to make this movie. You know, you have to make this movie." And what his drive was is that he really wanted to celebrate the community factor of everybody coming together. But specific to the storm, like Jared said, this wasn't an unprecedented storm. It was big and heavy, and they were throwing 2-3 times more ammunition at this thing than they usually do. And the snowpack was actually, looking back on it, you know, it's easy for us, was actually pretty healthy snowpack, the way it had come in. But what had happened was, and so they couldn't see a lot, but they were throwing everything they could, and they needed to mitigate the road so they can keep the road access clear for emergency vehicles, etc. And in the time that they went over to KT, because you have to go to KT and then drop in the backside to do the mitigation program on the road, there was a massive warming event. And that's what was really different about this storm. But until that point, it was fairly healthy snowpack, but there was definitely wind loading.
Let's take a look at the profile of Jim in the movie, and then we'll come back.
My name is Jim Plain, and I was the avalanche forecaster for Alpine Meadows Ski Resort. So maybe I'll cut here for a minute.
You know, when you're talking about the community and trauma, you know, clearly Jim has been carrying this event for a very long time, Jared. I just, do you think the film was healing for him to finally tell his story?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing was, you know, Siig and I, when we started kind of working on this, which was probably about 6 years ago, the first step was to sit with Jim, you know, do our own research, get as educated as we can. But then sit. If Jim wants to tell his story or his version of the story, let's sit. And Jim is an open book. And that was really eye-opening to me to go, he wants to talk. Like there's something in him that he wants to talk, that he wants to say that hasn't been said yet. And that quickly opened up to other subjects. And everyone in our film, there was never a moment where we had to convince anyone. In fact, it's the opposite. It was the opposite. Yeah, there's a lot of people that chose not to be in the movie because they dealt with it in their own way and they didn't want to open the box. But everyone in the movie wanted to say something. And the interviews that we conducted, they really weren't interviews. They were, hey, we're going to turn the camera on and go. Like, go. We sat in that room with Jim and interviewed him for 4 days and just let him talk. And we did that for pretty much everyone. And what we found was most of them had not talked about 82 these last 40 years. There were a few moments throughout. There was a 20-year anniversary and this and that, but they didn't talk about it. And they had never shared stories. And they had never heard that this person thought this and this person was dealing with that. And what we found is since showing the film, we had a screening of the movie about 2 years ago, a really rough cut just for our communities, just for those in the movie and just for our Alpine community. And we said, hey, like we made this movie for you. This is your story. It's not ours. Sure, we constructed the film, but it's your story. And if you don't feel like it helps, if you think it might hurt, or if you don't feel like it captures the underlying truth of what you experienced, then let's just toss it. Like take the footage, stick it in the archives and toss it. And there was immediately from that moment on, there was real healing that had been done between them. And it opened our eyes to go, okay, we have a film that, can serve a purpose, like really serve a purpose for our community. And we've seen it transcend our community. Yeah, in the ski world, there's an Outside Magazine article that came out a couple weeks ago. Last week, everybody should read it. It's phenomenal. Megan Michelson wrote it. And she touches on how seeing the film helped her process her own grief and what she went through. And we've heard it with others that, not in the ski area, but have are still dealing with their own challenges that the movie can help them overcome. And that was always our hope. If the movie can help us all deal with our challenges, whatever that might be, because everyone's dealing with their own trauma in their own way, whatever it is, no matter how big or small. And so we've seen it work in that way, which is a testament to those who were willing to step up and be on camera and open up to the world.
Siig, how many were lost? How many souls were lost in the avalanche, and how many survived?
7 souls were lost, ultimately. Very tough. A family had walked into, and so many people, especially the closed ski area, is tough, and it makes the story, break across the nation. And this was a nationwide story, and what we're trying to do and what that moment did is it engaged people with the story, and then everyone could learn from the after effects of it. But like Jared was talking, the community is the core of what this is, and that's exactly how it all came to be. Even making the film, we needed the community. We had to go out and search these people out. And so we're always driving that notion of we can heal as a community better than we can by ourselves. And many, many people from this incident really suffered severe PTSD, because it used to be that, you would just put up this strong, shield and deal with it. But now we're starting to realize that the more we talk about these stories, the more we can heal together. And sometimes it takes that long. Like, it's been 40 years and people were very open about talking now. And I don't think that would have happened, in 1982 or 83. It's better to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Jared, tell us who Larry is and what his role is in the movie.
Larry Haywood was the assistant patrol director back in '82. He worked under Bernie Kingery. As it's described in the film, it was kind of a three-way partnership between Bernie and Jim and Bob, who was the patrol director, and right beneath that was Larry. And yeah, that was his role in '82.
Let's see Larry's profile.
I'm Larry Haywood. In March 31st, 1982, I was the assistant director of the ski patrol at Alpine Meadows. That day, what happened that afternoon, in many ways, kind of defined and directed the rest of my life. Obviously, in the periods of time afterward, you think about it every day, all day, and then a little less, and then a little less. And you go for days, then weeks and months, and then even years without thinking about it. But it's funny, this story just keeps resurfacing in my life. And it's just by happenstance that in 1982, I wasn't in the building next to Bernie. Or if we'd have left the building a little later to go to Squaw, I would have been in the building. A lot of so many what ifs, particularly for the people who didn't make it.
Again, just so powerful. You can see, the impact, these events have on people's lives. And Steve, when you see that and you realize that, he dodged a bullet that day in the line of duty, doing his job, trying to prevent the one thing that actually happened. What's your takeaway from him and his role in that?
Guys, I lost audio, so I can't hear you. So I'm going to have to defer to Jared to answer that question.
No, can you hear me now? What I was saying was, it's so powerful that he's been carrying it all these years. And, he dodged a bullet that day while he was at work trying to prevent the one thing that actually happened. And just wondering what your takeaway is on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate and relative to what they all experienced. And there's not a lot of sense, I mean, in who survived and who didn't. That's the crazy thing. And I think everybody that we talked to felt some survivor's guilt and survivor's remorse. And it doesn't make sense a lot of times why Larry was over there and others weren't. And for us, that's an important part of the film is we have to do what we can to keep each other safe. And we have to watch each other's back and listen to the professionals that are out there working to keep us safe so that we can mitigate the risk wherever possible. Because we're all here to have fun. I mean, that's the thing about your tagline, like skiing's fun. It is fun. And the mountains are a great place to be. And there's joy and there's meaning and there's purpose that come from being in the mountains. That's important. But there's realities to it. And I think, Larry in that clip, is experiencing and wrestling with the reality of, why me? Why did I survive?
Yeah, it's really, really powerful film. Of course, the website is buriedfilm.com. Kicks off this week on a national tour all across the country. Plenty of stops, and then it goes on demand on video. Where can we find it online after the tour?
Yeah, so we the big point that you just made, we go nationwide in theaters on Friday. Depending on what happens there, we may continue to more theaters in the following weeks. So hopefully we'll be in theaters throughout this next month. If you don't catch it in the theater, which we'd love for you to watch it in the theater, because I do feel like, yes, it's a powerful film. It's got energy behind it. You want to experience it in the cinema, but even more significantly, watching it sitting by your peers and sitting by your community, because this is a movie about community, it gives it more weight and more meaning. And we always wanted this movie to bring people together. But if you don't catch it there, then it will be streaming November 8th, where we have our video on demand release is November 8th on Amazon and iTunes and elsewhere, wherever you can watch movies. So,
well, congratulations on that. And,
yeah.
you know, Tricia and Phil, you know, this is a great way to kick off the start of Ski Talk here, and an important film to be talking about, and relevant, of course, and all the things about it today. Here at SkiTalk.com and Ski Talk Live, we have a new sponsor. You want to tell us about that, Phil?
Yeah, we brought aboard CB Sports, who, if anybody's been skiing for as long as anybody on the site has been skiing, you're familiar with them from the 80s and the 90s, is one of the iconic brands as far as clothing. I mean, some of the best skiers on the mountain were noticed because they were wearing CB clothing.
And there they are. Some of the best skiers on the mountain. Tricia and Phil, well done in that. Well done. Well done. Of course, we're excited. Thanks, CB, for supporting the show, and we're pretty happy about that. You know, Stephen and Jared, it's nice to have you here. And this is our roundtable portion of the show. You guys have, you know, it's an important day here in the ski world. Sad day. It's an important release of your film. And congratulations. I know how hard that is. Wondering if you guys have any questions for each other or for us, or anything you like. We'll start with you, Stephen.
I don't have any questions, but to get back to what Jared said, it's really important that you see this film in the theaters. It's one of those films that we made it to be heard in a surround sound environment, and it really gives you the impact of what this is. It's very jarring, and we needed to make a powerful film and have it be intense because this is such a powerful and intense story. And so we're really pushing the theatrical, and we feel honored and grateful that we even have a theatrical release. You know, we're really proud of that.
Yeah, it's a lot to be proud of, and it's an intensive tour for sure. You can check it out. They're coming to Boston. If you're interested in that, Aaron, not too far away from New Hampshire, you can find it up in Danvers, which is pretty cool. I myself would love to see this film. I am going to see it in a theater for sure, because that's the best setting. You know, I'll throw it over to you, Jared. I mean, on today, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts running through your mind. Any topic or anything you want to talk about, feel free.
I don't know. I would say, are you guys going to come ski alpine at all this winter?
Absolutely.
Yep, we'll be there.
Nice.
A lot.
Yeah, definitely shoot us a note. We'll come take some runs with you.
That would be fantastic. Question that I have is, again, this movie's obviously happened in 1982. We're in a little bit different of an environment right now, with a lot of people going into the backcountry and not, in my opinion, not taking avalanches as seriously as they could and should be. I hope this movie is actually an eye-opening, even in such a controlled environment of a resort, that this can still happen, let alone what can happen in the backcountry.
Yeah. Amen. Totally. I mean, that was living here in Alpine. We hear ambulances going up and down the road all weekend, you know, of people that not avalanches necessarily, but just not paying attention and not being aware. And we wanted to make this movie to kind of wake people up and scare the shit out of people a little bit and say, hey,
it's pretty serious, you know?
Yeah.
And if you don't respect Mother Nature, it can be, even when you do respect Mother Nature, stuff can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's an example is Hilaree, you know, and, you know, there wasn't anybody else, you know, more tuned into the mountain than Hilaree. And, you know, these things do happen, and people need to realize the inherent risks. You know, we even lost a 16-year-old last season who was just an amazing soul, Scotty Lapp.
I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, we always learn a little something more when we talk about these people and these stories. And that's the most important part, is that we keep these conversations going. The more we talk about what happened, Jared and I always talk about observations. I don't know if he spoke about that earlier, but observations, now that we have avalanche forecasting centers, that's the biggest tool that we have right now, is people talking and telling their stories, so that we're just more aware all the time. We have great tools now with weather apps and things like that. But the more we get from people's experiences that are out there, the safer we'll be. And that's just critical. And Scotty and his buddy collided, and that happens a lot. These are inherent risks, and we just have to keep talking about them, and we have to keep remembering those great people.
And that's one of the things I took away from the movie, is when Jim was talking, he was at the forefront really of avalanche forecasting and was considered one of the utmost respected experts in that field. And when somebody like that, who is as knowledgeable as he is, ends up having to take a break from it because it has impacted him that deeply, that leaves a lasting impact on the entire industry.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a very good point. Very good point.
And we just got to keep learning. Like, snow science, I think, is a little mischievous of a term. There's science involved, but like, science to me kind of implies that there's a definitive, answer. And snow, with the way it changes, it's not. I mean, it's hard.
Well,
yeah.
And think, all of these incidents recently have brought to question, because if you remember, there was another avalanche on Loveland Pass where some of the most experienced avalanche trainers were out doing some training in what they considered a somewhat safe environment, and they were swept away. And then Stevens Pass, where Elise Augustat was a survivor with her airbag, and that group was, again, some of the most accomplished people in this particular segment of skiers.
Yeah.
And you always hear that in the observations or the reports. More times than not, it's the experienced people. And I mentioned Jimmy Chin's segment on Edge of Unknown, and he's with Jeremy Jones. Jeremy was actually looking up to him. Xavier De La Rue. These are the people in the top echelon, and they let their guard down. And he even says it's embarrassing when it happens. I don't believe that it's embarrassing. You're just putting yourself in those situations more often. But we even saw it with JT Holmes and Darren Ralphs. Darren Ralphs had to dig JT out. And these are all the top people in the world. And it's when you can't even call it a mistake. It's hard to say the word mistake. We live in a society that everyone's trying to blame somebody, even if you have to blame yourself. But the point is living in the mountains is a rugged environment, and you have to be ready. And when these snow events happen, you have to be really tuned in. And even when you're really tuned in, you got to come back down. And one of the people that I really respect right now is Cody Townsend. He has been doing the 50s. And he's, I lost my best friend to Mount St. Elias, and that mountain was gnarly. And what he's come to terms with is that he has to go befriend that mountain. And that's the only way they're going to accomplish that goal. But he's had to step off numerous times and not go for it. And I think the inherent risks are just the key that people just have to hold, to their heart and really listen to their intuition.
And we're doing the best with the forecasters, I think, to predict that. But in the end, Mother Nature's a little unpredictable.
There's only so much. And I think that's a beautiful realization that the industry has now. We were not sure how the ski world would feel about the movie because it doesn't necessarily highlight the beauty of it, the fun side of it. And what we've seen across the board, mostly across the board, is support. Like Palisades Tahoe, who, owns Alpine and Olympic Valley and that, they're 100% supportive. And they got behind the movie early on to give us resources and be able to film on site and whatever else, because they know that look, learning and making these observations, which our movie is really kind of one big observation, and learning from each other is the way that we're going to stay safe and therefore be able to recreate in the mountains. And I think, I can see how somebody so accomplished would feel embarrassed, if they get caught, because they should know better, but it's also the nature of it. And as much as we can create an atmosphere of like, look, it's okay to share, like share, please, because that's how we can all learn. Is an awesome thing, and a testament to you guys for having us on the show for that reason, which is awesome. So
yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
and I love your guys' slogan. What is it again?
Skiing is fun.
Skiing is fun, and that is it's a killer way to approach it. And that has to be at the top, because skiing is fun. It's bitching, but it happens to be in the mountains, and it can be gnarly. So you can have fun, but you have to be aware in order to have fun, because, we talk about all these tragedies, but more times than not, man, I'm having a good time out there. I'll tell you that much. So I love your guys' slogan. It's just
amen, Zigo. I got a question for Dan. You don't have to answer if you don't want. Might be a little too personal. I don't know, but maybe you can skirt around it. So
why we're directors.
You've had your share of experiences in the mountains. What did you feel watching Buried? And were there parallels? Could you draw? Did it? What was your experience watching Buried, knowing what you've been through?
Yeah, I mean, it triggered a lot for me. And, of course, the memory of a lot of friends. It triggered, my experience as a guide and guiding and making decisions. I kept thinking about the three patrollers on top and the restraint they showed in not skiing down. Of course, that was in 1982 on straight skis. So they wouldn't have been able to ski down because they would have been wallowing all that snow, not up on it. So I thought they showed a lot of restraint. And, with Jim, I really connected with him and the decision making and how hard it is to make a decision to call off a search while people are still buried. And of course, the spoiler alert is, that was a critical part of the film, and it has a happy ending for that person. So that's amazing, and of course, trauma is something, I've studied and talk a lot about. And, a lot of people know that, in Russia, John and I and Tom Day had a major storm where 11 people were lost in 1990. And I was 38 hours without food or water, and a Russian saved my life at 17,000 feet. So I could relate to that experience of being buried, being lost, and the trauma of loved ones around us. And, just like Larry said, it dictated a lot of his life. And I've said that many times about Elbrus for me. So, yeah, very fascinating. And, these days as a guide and guiding in Europe, the decision making and the human factor are massive. And, you open up your trailer with this idea of mitigating the human factor, that we can't be overconfident. The more you know, the more you don't know. And that, as an expert and as a professional, is the hardest thing to keep top of mind. In our morning guide meetings that we have over in Val d'Isere, it's that's sort of the theme, and to run around with in the tracks and in the zones where there's other experts is key. And I always find that the hardest part of that experience is that clients are always out to have the best day of their life. They're in search of, skiing that deep powder run. And as a guide, you have to take a step back and think about the worst situation that could happen. That's your job, not to think about. And like when I'm heli skiing up in Alaska and somebody say, hey, can I hit that cliff? My response every time is the same. You want a great moment or you want a good week? Like what is it? And I think as skiers and responsibility, we have to, Instagram has crushed skiing. It's, trying to capture yourself every moment in an epic position with your GoPro is running other people over. So like, taking a step back from that and saying, I'm here for my family. I'm here for my friends. I'm here to enjoy the place, not to have my Instagram moment. So, I think the responsibility is shared amongst people, but your film really hit a chord with me, and it's emotion, right? And all throughout that film I felt emotional, and you could see it in their eyes and you could feel it. And so my hat's off to you as filmmakers to get that across to the audience. You could see where seeing this in a theater is really the way to go. So I appreciate the question, and yeah, I could go all day long on that one, Jared. Yeah,
Great points. A lot of really good points in there.
Yeah, and the Instagram thing, it reminds me of something Laney said when we were at Mountain Film. A lot of people, they're just trying to go as fast as they can. They're not even looking around anymore, and bringing in the mountains and healing. And it's where I went today. When I found out the details of Hilaree, this is the first place I went straight up to Estelle, and I needed to get healing and look around and soak up the mountain. And so many people are in such a rush to get to the top. They're not aware of where they are, and they're not getting everything they need out of it. They're not being, there's no gratitude, it seems. And I'm kind of putting everybody into one group. I just have noticed more people are like that. They get the gear, they get their beacons, they get their skins, and they go. And they may not even know how to use that beacon. And I'm really hoping that this film opens up those eyes. And when you're talking about guiding, Dan, that's a tough part of guiding, because those people are trying to have fun. Skiing is fun and they want the best run ever. And it's hard to go, okay, guys, let's slow down a beat. Let's look around. Let's take it all in and really assess where we are and what we're doing and why we're doing it, because we want to have fun.
I sort of, the whole, putting your skis in lift line at 7 a.m. on a powder day, that to me is like, it's often better. What I say is to be behind the herd. I don't always want to be in front of the herd, and, kind of watch where the herd goes and maybe go somewhere else. Right. So, I think that, often taking a step back from that energy is insightful. And I think that's a lesson a lot of people need to learn sometimes. It's like, yeah, being first is cool, but what are you learning from it and where are you going? So I think it's amazing. And, this is great. Ken jumping in here. He was there that day. So that this film is going to be impactful for a lot of people. We appreciate you sharing, Ken. And, this is great for us. It's an important film for the community, and the community is skiing as a whole. And, Phil, as you start, here into another season, there's so much happening on SkiTalk, because what's beautiful is the community of SkiTalk and people participating with that. And I know you've got you're always running contests and things. Share with us the latest contest and give us the lowdown.
Well, I'm going to let Tricia actually take point on this. Is we had a lot of fun with one of our new brands we're working with, and that's No-So Patches. And Trish, why don't you start?
So if you are not familiar with No-So Patches, it's NOSO patches, and they mean no sew as in no sewing. Kelly, who started this company in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, had a tear in a jacket that she loved, and she ended up putting duct tape on it. She said there's got to be a better way to do this. So she set out to develop this patch that you just stick it on, you attach, or you hit it with a hairdryer or a little bit of a heat gun, and it adheres to your tech clothing or your tent, your backpack. It's for all kinds of outdoors equipment. And we decided to do a SkiTalk logoed No-So patch, and we've been working with Kelly and her crew, and we've done 2 contests, and we have some winners.
Yep.
And I'm really proud to say what their hashtag is pretty important to us to also, which is patch it, don't trash it. So it's a really cool concept. And here are two winners.
Yep.
It's A and B won this, and it's called the Duct Tape and the 70s Freestyle. But we're actually going to produce all 4 of the patches because we had 4 in the final running that were really amazing and everybody loved them. And we're going to end up doing all 4 instead of just 2.
Yep, we started off with like eight patches. We got it down to 4, and these were the final 2 winners. But I'll tell you, the community loved all 4. The race was so tight. These 2 actually came in as a tie, which is the first time we've ever had that in any of our contests. So we're excited about it, and you'll be able to buy these patches on SkiTalk.com in our store.
Those are rad. That's
Yeah.
a great idea. But you know, I use fly low gear, so my stuff never tears.
Never rips. Never rips, Stephen. That's great.
Yeah.
Of course.
But those are great 2 designs. I got to say, I love both of those.
Yeah, we're really happy with Dave Peterson, who does our graphics, does just some tremendous work. We're really excited to have him aboard. Been working with him for a couple of decades on various projects. And then we also have an upcoming contest that'll be starting in a day or so, and that's going to kind of a lead into our next show, which is we're going to give away some Peak skis. Toco is the title sponsor of our giveaway series, and Lead Lenser, if you do any night riding, you're mountain biking, this light system is fantastic. I used it up on Peavine for riding. I mean, it's just incredible, the quality of lights that we get out there on the market right now.
But the grand prize winner is going to be a set of Peak skis by Bodie Miller.
Yep.
That's awesome. You're
All
going
right,
to get
I'm in on all this stuff.
You guys should stay tuned because we have good contests
Yeah.
every other week.
Yeah,
you can enter as many times as you want, Stephen. No big deal.
exactly. Early and often. And
of
then,
course, Phil, at Ski Talk, you get all the latest ski reviews, and we're coming into it. And you want to tell us about the video and what we're going to review tonight?
Yeah, we've got a video of the new Vocal Mantra M6, which is a ski that, again, the Mantra's been around since pretty much the dawn of wide skis. And it's the reference ski that almost every ski in this 97 to 100 millimeter category gets compared against. So let's pop this up. We don't need to go through the whole video, but you'll get an idea as far as our videos. And for those watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can keep producing these videos.
Hi, I'm Tricia, and this is Phil from SkiTalk.com. Few models define a brand quite the way the Mantra does for Vocal. So let's talk about the M6.
Well, first, some history with the Mantra. This is the 6th generation of Mantra, hence the M6. Ski started around the turn of the century with a 94 millimeters wide underfoot, went to 96, 98, and 100. Now we're back to 96 with the new generation of skis.
You've had a love-hate relationship with the Mantra over the years, hey, Phil?
Love-hate is pretty strong.
Yeah.
There are some models that I personally didn't agree with as far as the design of the skis. Doesn't mean that they were bad skis. It's just ones that I really didn't meld with on the hill. And that was really the 96s and 98s. As far as when they went to 100 millimeters underfoot, I really think that ski was actually a really misunderstood ski. It was probably one of the best off-piste biased 100s that we had at the time. What I do like about the new M6 Mantra, it's taken what I think is probably some of the best attributes of all of those generations, and they've brought it to this newest generation of ski.
Especially with the tailored Tittenall construction, which was introduced to us last year.
Yeah. Now, I think that's one of the things that really they did a good job with this new generation of skis. By doing a lot of scaling of the construction of the ski with the tailored tip, as you meant, and also the tailored carbon tip, which controls how that ski initiates into the turn, was huge.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I think really surprisingly made a huge difference for me was when they went to the 3D side cut on the ski. So we've got the reference 177 here. Now it's built as a 17.5 meter radius ski, but that 17.5 meter radius is underfoot. in the forebody, the tip, we're at a 29.8 meter radius, and in the tail, a 24.3. Round numbers, 30 and 24 on that. But what that center has done on that ski, it's made the ski a lot more reactive as far as when you're pressuring the ski, yet that tip and tail don't let the ski be nervous on the snow. So that, I think, really adds to a lot of the versatility of this new generation of ski.
Well, there you have it. I know when my nephew Johnny is on those mantras, Uncle Dan's having a hard time keeping up. So
they're kind of the go-tos, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah,
they are. No, that's great, Phil. So, of course, on the YouTube channel, you can find all these sorts of reviews, right?
Yeah.
We got comparison tests. We've got some cage matches where we compare one ski against another. And the cage match, we're not saying one is better than the other, but who's going to appreciate the attributes of this ski? Who's going to appreciate the attributes of another ski? And usually it's two skis that commonly get compared. When you're down to your last two pair, which one do I choose?
So, Stephen and Jared, this is the part of the show where I always encourage the guests to ask for sponsorship, particularly around your new tour. You might want to tap into Tricia and Phil to get some skis down there to San Francisco and LA for the opening of the show.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. We're also starting a new project. Talking about having fun. So, we're always looking for sponsors for that next project that we're starting in November.
Stay in touch.
Yep.
And it's going to be a good, fun ski narrative film. So it's more of a narrative film than it is a ski film, but it takes place in the ski world. So we're really excited about that and doing that with Katie Burrell, who has done a lot of work with vocals. So we're excited to be producing her first film.
And but I would like to reiterate, where do we find the list of where Buried is going to be in theaters?
It's buriedfilm.com/screenings right there. You can go to buriedfilm.com.
Perfect.
Yeah. And one last thing I would like to say is, Dan, you kind of touched on this a little bit. I just want to emphasize for anyone watching that, the movie's tough. There's a lot of tragedy in it, but our hope was to find some silver lining that we can explore and leave the audience feeling better than when they walked into the movie. So there's hope. At the end of the day, this movie, a lot of it is about hope and working together to persevere and ultimately come through the other side. So it's there's something positive that comes out of this.
Thank you very much.
I would agree. It is a hopeful movie. You can see it, and it's in the characters. It's in the telling of the story, and it's an important story to tell. This has been great. Of course, we want to thank our new sponsor of the show, CB. We appreciate that. And Phil and Trish, you look great in the jackets. We're excited for that. And of course, this is normally where I say you've wasted another perfectly good hour with us at SkiTalk, but not tonight. No. Tonight, you've actually invested some valuable time and in the memory of Hilaree and all those that were lost in the Buried movie from SkiTalk. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you guys for participating. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll look you up when we get back in town.
Definitely. Please do.